Alright, so I wanted to show everyone the new pistol AR that I built. Basically, I was looking through my box of spare parts one day and it dawned on me that I had almost everything I needed to build another AR. So since I already had two ARs, I decided I was going to build a pistol version and see how I liked it. Because if I didn't like it, I can always convert it into a rifle if I want to. Can't take a rifle into a pistol, but you can make a pistol into a rifle. So the first thing I did was I had to order a Virgin lower and have it designated as pistol when I ordered it, and that was from Palmetto State Armory. Took forever to come in, but I got a Rock River pistol buffer tube. This right here is a little rubber end cap, so when I set it down in the safe it doesn't slide around. That is legal via the ATF. I have a letter confirming that. And the little rubber cane tips that you use are 1 1/8 inch Walker replacement tips. So these tips are designed to go on an old person's walker, and they work perfect to go right on the end of a pistol buffer tube. The other option, instead of using a cane tip, is you can use a foam cover for the buffer tube that they sell for about $7 or $8. I like the little rubberized part because the foam's nice because it's a good, if you touch your cheek to it, you have a padding all the way down it. But I don't know, I just prefer rubber over foam. It doesn't tear as easily. All right, and I originally bought a 7.5 inch barrel to put on it, and turns out that a 7.5 inch barrel causes way too much back pressure and ended up having trouble with it. So after talking to friends and reading about my suppressor, I realized that I had to use a 10.5 inch barrel. So luckily I didn't put my suppressor on the 7.5 inch and damage the suppressor. I bought a 10.5 and the suppressor seems to work fine on it. I mentioned the 7.5 in one of the videos and somebody goes, "Is your suppressor designated for that?" So I looked at it before I voided my warranty by putting it on it. So anyway, that's good news. Also put a rail, comes out exactly here, so when I put the suppressor on it mates right up, gives it a nice look. Also right up here, this giant silver thing. That giant silver thing is actually a regular reflex sight that runs about $40. And what I've done is I took a 22 or 23 gauge piece of steel that I bought at a hardware store, and I cut it with metal shears and cut it, bent it, drilled it, and bolted it over to make a cover. And next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to see if I can blue it and paint it to make it match the rest of the gun. But the reason I did that is this particular sight, being a general reflex sight, not a fancy EOTech or one of the expensive ones, basically is just hanging out there. It doesn't have a protective armor like the expensive sights do. So if you were to drop it on top of it, you would probably break the glass. If you dropped it, you would knock it out of whack. So I decided, hey, I'll just, for $5, make myself my own protective cover for my reflex sight. And I tried using one of the standard tube style red dots, and I just don't care for the tube style. I like the open style. As you can see everything around it. Unlike the tube, you have to look down like a scope. This one gives you a lot more visual, doesn't block any views except for where the weapon is lower, but all your above and right and left you can see with the weapon when you're aiming it. So anyway, I'll go ahead and stop the video here, and I'll come back once I have that sucker painted up and matching and show you the finished version with and without the suppressor. So I'll be back once I get that done. So first step of fixing the sheet metal shroud is done. What I've done is I've gone and used perma blue on it to blue the shroud. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out and I'm going to hit it with some black Krylon spray paint. And you may say, well, if you're going to spray paint it, why on earth did you bother bluing it? And the reason is because I bang up all my stuff and I Boba Fett it out. So whenever the spray paint scrapes off, I want there to be black underneath. so that you don't have silver shining through. So anyway, something to think about whenever you're refinishing guns and making your own parts is, hey, I may want to paint it, but if the paint scrapes off, what's going to show underneath? So just food for thought. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick shot before I put the shroud actually on the weapon, but there is the finish shroud right there. And again, I blued it, and then I spray painted it with black Krylon. I probably wish I had flat Krylon, but I used satin black. But anyway, it's good enough for matching the weapon close enough, and it'll give protection to it, and it won't look out of place unless somebody gets up really close to it, which again, who cares. But if you're wondering how you do it, this right here is the sheet metal, and again, it's I think 22, 23 gauge sheet metal. You have to get a nice pair of super duper metal cutting shears for it. And what I did is I just made a paper outline of the shroud. I made it out of paper, out of graph paper, cut it out, fitted it, and turned out my measurements were actually pretty accurate because it fitted really well. And so then I laid it on the metal piece, traced it, and then cut it out with the scissors. And then one thing you'll need to do is you'll need to bust out a Dremel and Dremel all the edges to make them smooth, otherwise they'll be sharp and risk cutting yourself on it. So smooth it out and all that. So, and one more thing, so these types of sights, they just pretty much float on top of the piece that locks them to the rail, and they go up, down, right, and left. They're held by bolts and springs, and so that's what controls the angle on them. The problem is because they don't have an outer protective covering, they can get whacked and hit things, and they're just kind of hanging out there. They don't have like a metal tube like a normal red dot that just protects it as the tube does. These right here can suffer all types of things. You can even see the gap. See the gap in there where it pivots up and down between the top and the bottom. So anyway, that's why I'm doing this, is to give it a little more protection so it won't just be hanging out there to get knocked out of position or have the glass get broken and damaged if I drop it. Alright, so here is the finished project. It's a little glossier than I would like it to be, but other than that though, it matches the black on the weapon fairly well, and it does protect that sight fairly well also. As you can see, it's got a nice protective shield around it, but when you look straight down from behind, it doesn't get in the way of the sight picture at all. You can see right down where the scope is. Oh, there we go. There we got the red dot. So see, you can see everything around the red dot as you're panning left and right through my kitchen. Probably should have cleaned up. But yeah, now if you drop it, wah, then it'll just whomp on the ground and won't break the sight. So that's my finished project, and if you ever feel like making a nice big piece of tinfoil shroud, then that's the way you do it. Have a good one. Oh, hold on, I gotta get the suppressor because I told everyone I'd show them with the suppressor on it. Okay, so there is the AR pistol. By all legal definitions of the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearm and the National Firearms Act, the pistol AR-15 version with a suppressor on it and a 10.5-inch barrel, and a red dot with a protective shroud on it. The other thing I'm trying to work on is a secondary sighting system where I just take some old sights off one of my pistols I replaced with tritium sights, and I mount them on the front accessory rail to give me a backup sighting system in case I don't have time to crank on the red dot or the batteries go out. At least I have a close range set of pistol sights as backup. But that is the finished project or product.